1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Keep following the leader.
Oh my God.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify when you and God in time are best aligned.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right.
We gonna get it right. That's right, y'all. Happy Monday. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Q, DRNIIQ, and boom, bam, boom. I pop right on up. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now, look, I am a big fan of a new social media platform. I know you have a lot of social media platforms you're probably already subscribed to. And this is probably the last thing you want to hear is, oh, you should join this app. You should download this app, but you really should. I blocked out some time on Friday to really sort of dig into Substack. Everybody's talking about Substack. You got to go get on Substack. Substack, if you are a journalist, if you are a subject matter expert, if you're a thought leader, you should be on Substack. Substack is the next big thing. And I am not an ambassador to Substack. Substack ain't paying me to tell you this at all. I'm just keeping it real. I was pleasantly surprised when I gave Substack a chance. And so go ahead and download the app, get on Substack, follow me, I'll follow you, and we'll continue to build community. How about that? Now, one of the most essential parts of building any community is keeping folks informed with information they can trust. And so in that spirit, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. You decide. Kicking us off right in Los Angeles, where our home station is located, the LA Times is reporting that former LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley appeals her dismissal by Mayor Karen Bass. Former LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley took the extraordinary step on Thursday of appealing Mayor Bass's decision to dismiss her over her handling of the catastrophic wildfire that destroyed much of the Pacific Palisades. The appeal, which would require approval of 10 of the 15 city council members, is unlikely to succeed, but it will almost certainly cause further public turmoil for Bass, who has struggled to regain her political footing since the Palisades fire erupted on January 7th. Again, the Los Angeles Times is reporting that the move comes less than a week after Bass ousted Crowley, criticizing the then chief for not fully pre-deploying engines amid dire wind forecasts and for allegedly refusing to participate in an after-action report on the fire. Can you imagine that? You've been fired, and now you said, nope, not so fast. I'm going to the LA City Council to appeal your decision, Madam Mayor. Right now, it looks like that is unlikely to be successful, but pretty bold move. Moving along, Palisades. Speaking of the Palisades could rebuild with more affordable housing, but many in the wealthy area actually oppose the idea. LA Times also reporting that before the fire, the average home in the Pacific Palisades cost $3.5 million. The median household earned $325,000, and the total number of rental units restricted as affordable housing was 2. But some residents hope for even more exclusivity after the fires. One went so far as to propose in a community text message chain that a rebuilt Palisade should employ drones to track unfamiliar cars. What? With the devastation primarily affecting the neighborhood's wealthy single-family home enclave, the Palisades lost more than 1,300 multifamily units and mobile homes in this disaster. And of those, 770 were in older buildings covered by the city's rent control laws. And offered a modicum of affordability for longtime tenants that now disappeared. And so this is going to be a big debate. And keep in mind, in Los Angeles, next year is our LA mayoral election. And so you better believe this issue is going to come up, and where people stand on this is going to be really important in terms of people's ability to rebuild in the place they most recently called home. Jumping from LA to right here to Washington, D.C., First Lady Melania Trump used her first public remarks of the term to shine a light on victims of deep-fake revenge porn. CNN reporting that First Lady Melania Trump is she was expected to speak, and she spoke today for the first time since her husband returned to office, highlighting, of all things, her support for a bill aimed at protecting Americans from deep fakes and revenge pornography. Trump held a roundtable discussion today on Capitol Hill, and she was intending to shine a light on the Take It Down Act, which boasts protections for victims of non-consensual sharing of sexual images, including content generated by artificial intelligence, also known as deepfake porn. In the past year, targets of AI-generated non-consensual pornography images have ranged from prominent women such as Taylor Swift and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to high school girls. The bill introduced by Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas would criminalize the publication of non-consensual intimate imagery, including AI-generated imagery, and require social media and similar websites to have in place procedures to remove such content upon notification from the victim. It passed the Senate with bipartisan support. When's the last time you heard that? Bipartisan support during the last session of Congress, and again in February, but it has yet to pass the House. Cruz and a bipartisan group of lawmakers, including Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota and Representative Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania, have supported the effort, and the First Lady is now lending her support. And so, look, even in the midst of what seems to be a chaotic Washington from day to day, there are still some things that seem to engender bipartisan support, this surprisingly being one of them. And finally, speaking of the White House, this news broke just this afternoon. The White House has directed officials to draft a proposal to lift U.S. sanctions on Russia. Yeah, The Guardian is reporting that the United States is drawing up a plan to potentially give Russia sanctions relief as Donald Trump seeks to restore ties with Moscow and stop the war in Ukraine. It's according to U.S. officials and other people familiar with the matter. The White House has asked the State and Treasury departments to draft a list of sanctions that could be eased for U.S. officials to discuss with Russian representatives in the coming days as a part of the administration's broad talks with Moscow on improving diplomatic and economic relations. The sanctions office are now drawing up a proposal for lifting sanctions on select entities and individuals, including some Russian oligarchs, according to sources. And so this puts that meeting on Friday with Ukrainian President Zelensky into further focus. There are a lot of people that alleged that President Zelensky was set up, that the president and vice president sort of teamed up and were looking for a reason to depart from their support for Ukraine. And so certainly that spectacle, in the eyes of some people, created a reason. Was it all intended to give them cover to do the thing that was apparently already in the works, which is easing sanctions on Russia? You decide. When we come forward, we're switching gears. One of the most important issues that will impact our communities from coast to coast, one of the most important lifelines that we've created in the history of the United States, is potentially on the chopping block. GOP lawmakers have committed to big spending cuts, putting Medicaid under a spotlight. We're going to set the table, connect the dots in an effort to make sure that we're all clear on what this can mean for our family members, for our communities across the country, with one of America's leading voices in the policy advocacy effort around protecting Medicaid for you and our fellow Americans. When we come forward, I'll be in conversation with Dr. Jean Accius, the president and CEO of Creating Healthier Communities. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. Who cares about the Black community in Altadena? We do. On Saturday, March 8th at 10 a.m., it's the premiere of Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr. This new weekly show will explore the deep roots and resilience of Altadena's Black community as we track its recovery and reimagine its future. From relief efforts to rebuilding, we're raising up voices, stories, and solutions to build back Black Altadena better and stronger than ever. It's Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr, every Saturday at 10 a.m. beginning Saturday, March 8th, with an encore presentation, Sundays at noon.
James Farr, the man who is the voice for Black Los Angeles.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
The following is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways. Airfare not included. See FVGradio.com for complete details. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get your complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. Proceeding is not sponsored by this station or its affiliates.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Really delighted to welcome to the show again my friend and thought leader, Dr. Gene Accius. He is the president and CEO of CHC, Creating Healthier Communities, where he leads a high-performing team dedicated to breaking down barriers to health and empowering communities to thrive. Dr. Accius, welcome to the show.
Well, Dr. Nii-Quartelai, thank you so much for having me on the show with you. I am really excited to be part of this conversation and looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise, a very important conversation. There are so many of our fellow Americans that depend on Medicaid. In California, where our home station is located, it's called Medi-Cal, and it may have different names in different states, but it's the same mission. For folks who are less familiar about just the history of Medicaid, very high level, talk to us about why this particular social safety net benefit is crucially important, and to whom?
Well, you know, I was struck by the name of your show, A More Perfect Union. And as you just mentioned, whether you're in California or are you in Texas or you're in Georgia or you're in Alabama or are you in Oklahoma or you are in Maryland, whatever state you're in, Medicaid is vitally important to our communities. It is the most comprehensive healthcare program for low-income families across this country. More than 83 million people are in the Medicaid program. I'll say that again, more than 83 million people. And what that means is the fact that when you think about it, this program provides critical access to healthcare coverage, critical access to long-term care. So for those who are caring for an aging parent or who is in a nursing home, Medicaid is oftentimes the primary payer for this care. You're talking about more than 40% of the U.S. children in the U.S. are on Medicaid. More than 40% of all births are paid by Medicaid. When you look at nursing homes across the country and the older adults and individuals with disabilities who are in nursing homes, over 63% of those individuals are on Medicaid. This program is extremely vital. It is a lifeline for individuals who are needing cancer treatment, kidney treatment, who are in need of mental health services, individuals that have chronic conditions, individuals who are even facing potential homelessness, because Medicaid provides a safety net to try to provide individuals with wraparound services. So that's the history of this program. It was created in the 1960s, 1965 to be exact. So we're nearly approaching 60 years of its existence, and it covers 1 in 5 Americans in this country.
I mean, that is very significant. And dare I say, cuts to the Medicaid program are very consequential. This isn't about just cutting the fat. This is about cutting a lifeline. Dr. Accius, make the distinction for us? Because there are a lot of people out there that say, well, there are lots of government programs out there, and trimming a little bit of fat, could be good for government. But what's being proposed at this hour is more than just trimming a little bit of fat.
I think that is spot on, and I think the question is the math just ain't working.
Math ain't mathing.
Math is not mathing. When you talk about a potential $880 billion cut in the Medicaid program, the question becomes exactly what does that actually really mean? And what we have to do is really take this into account, Dr. Nii-Quartelai. As I mentioned before, when you have nearly over 40% of all births covered by the Medicaid program, when you have 63% of individuals, older adults, people with disabilities who are in nursing homes who rely on this Medicaid program, if you live in a rural area and you're looking to get access to healthcare services, oftentimes some of those providers are actually supported by the Medicaid program. So when you talk about an $880 billion cut, the question becomes, what does that actually mean? And what it means is the fact that we'll see significant losses in coverage. We'll see significant transfers in responsibility in terms of to the states. And they would have to try to figure out ways to balance the budget. So loss in coverage means increases in potential death. It means increases in uncompensated care. It means having to go without and not having access to the healthcare services that you, your family, your neighbor, your loved one desperately needs. That's what is actually on the line here.
And just to put a finer point on it, sources reporting that so far 40 states, as well as Washington, D.C., have participated in Medicaid expansion. The program's growth has reduced the number of Americans without health insurance, and it's narrowed coverage gaps for people of color and those with low-wage jobs who typically don't get employer-sponsored coverage. And so, again, for folks out there that think that maybe this doesn't matter to them, that this is not connected to them or anybody in their orbit, think again. There are hundreds of studies, apparently, that have found that Medicaid expansion has improved access to care and the health of the people who gain that coverage. And so when you say, people, our fellow Americans may very well, some of them may die as a result of some of these very severe, dare I say, thoughtless changes to a system that is such a major part of folks' health care. We're not being drama queens here, right? That's real stuff.
Yeah. No, what is being discussed is really life and death decisions, as you noted so well, because of the fact that individuals who are on the Medicaid program, these are individuals who are vastly working, but they make low wages, and oftentimes are employed in small companies or small firms or small businesses. So you do have that aspect as well, is the fact that small businesses will suffer. Not only will we see small businesses suffer, but Medicaid is also a huge economic engine for many localities. If you're in a rural community that relies on Medicaid, you could just imagine that cuts in Medicaid means less access, and then also has huge implications in terms of individuals losing their potential jobs and benefits.
And Dr. Jean, I want to ask you to really highlight the relationship between Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Election cycle after election cycle, since the Affordable Care Act was passed way back in 2010, when Obama was president, we have seen Republicans in Congress. We've seen, President Trump's first administration, go after the Affordable Care Act in an attempt to sort of overturn it. What does an $880 billion cut to Medicaid potentially mean for folks who enjoy the benefits of the Affordable Care Act?
I think it's huge. This is one of those conversations and discussions that we all need to be talking about, regardless if you're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican. When you talk about 1 in 5 Americans actually rely on the Medicaid program, you're talking about red states, blue states, purple states, and every color in between. So this issue around the Affordable Care Act and the need to have coverage. The United States more broadly spends more on healthcare than any other industrialized nation, yet our outcomes are not as great. We need to really focus on programs like the Medicaid program, programs that really ensure that people have access to healthcare coverage. It's a preventative measure. The ability, whether it's the Affordable Care Act in terms of some of the benefits that the Affordable Care Act has offered our population in order to stay healthy, remain healthy, or become healthy, those preventative measures have made America more competitive in the global stage, on the global stage. When you have healthier populations, you have a more vibrant workforce and a much more robust economy. It is a win-win. When individuals are having to decide between their health care and paying for prescriptions and rent, or paying for prescriptions and food, or paying for prescriptions and housing, we all suffer. So these conversations is more than a conversation. It's really it's really the basic necessities that is so vitally important to the social fabric and the economic engine of our country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Louisiana families, for example, are bracing for potential Medicaid cuts. And I bring up Louisiana on purpose because that's the home state of Speaker Johnson. That is his home state. And in an interview this week, Speaker Johnson, or just last week, he said that cutting large programs within Medicaid was not on the table, and that he was looking at, quotes, finding efficiencies in every program, not cutting benefits for people who rightly deserve them. Dr. Accius, is that possible? Or is this just Washington talk for, do as I say, not as I do?
Well, I think one question that we have to ask ourselves is, what do you mean and how do you define rightly deserving? What we know is the fact that in the COVID pandemic demonstrated this, what happens in one state impacts someone in another state. Healthcare has to be a right and not a privilege. So I don't necessarily understand, and it would be great to define what is someone who's rightly deserving. We have 40% of our children in the US rely on Medicaid. Who's going to decide who's rightly deserving and who's not?
Well, when we come forward, we're going to continue the conversation with Dr. Gene Accius, President CEO of CHC, Creating Healthier Communities. I want to get his take on Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, who's seeking to reinstate Medicaid work requirements. And more importantly, we want to get a sense of what we can do, right? Because Congress is going to do what they're going to do. The governors in the states are going to do what they're going to do. But what can we do? I have a feeling that Dr. Gene Accius has an assignment for us. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you've tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Pope Francis has taken another turn. In an afternoon update, the Vatican said the Pope suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure. He is receiving ventilation. Francis has been in the hospital due to bronchitis and pneumonia. There are about 3 million African-American Catholics in the U.S. Forecasters are predicting a large storm system will bring blizzard conditions and possible tornadoes to much of the U.S. this week. President Trump's tariffs on Mexico and Canada will officially go into effect Tuesday. Last week in a Truth Social post, President Trump said illegal drugs continue to pour across the border in what he called very high and unacceptable levels, despite pledges from both neighbors to boost security. Over 1.5 million Black people live in Canada. On Sunday at the Oscars, Paul Tazewell became the first Black man to win Best Costume Design. I'm Tyreek Wynn on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Pasadena 210 eastbound loading up at Lincoln. Delays all the way to Azusa and then crowding up ahead in Upland from Baseline to the 15. On the 118 eastbound, delays out of Porter Ranch. This is getting away from DeSoto and looking a lot better by the time you make your way to Reseda Boulevard. The drive in Calabasas 101 southbound slowing down at Lost Hills. Delays to the 170, 134 split. And North Hollywood on the 170 northbound, backing up at Victory Boulevard to the 5 merge.
You asked for it. 9 new dates added. You won't want to miss. For the Record presents Tarantino Pulp Rock, the immersive live experience that will blow you away. Come kill it with us. Ends April 6th, only at the Cinevita next to SoFi Stadium. Get your tickets now.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers' winning streak is now at 6. Last night's 108-102 win over the Clippers at Crypto.com moved the Lakers into second place in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City is on top in the West, 10 games ahead of the surging Lakers. The Lakers' 18-4 record is the best in the NBA over the past 6 weeks. Luka Doncic led the Lakers last night with 29 points and 9 assists. Rookie forward Dalton Knecht dropped 19 off the bench. The Lakers are back in action Tuesday night against New Orleans. The Clippers are at Phoenix on Tuesday. R&B singer Angie Stone was on her way to perform at the CIAA Men's Basketball Championship game Saturday night in Baltimore. Stone died early Saturday morning in a car crash outside of Montgomery, Alabama. The CIAA is made up of HBCU schools. Virginia State defeated Bluefield State 71-64 to earn the automatic bid to the NCAA Division II tournament. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your blood. Keep following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now, smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and he is Dr. Gene Accius. He's the president and CEO of CHC, Creating Healthier Communities. I've known Dr. Gene for quite some time. He has been on the front lines doing a lot of phenomenal policy advocacy work on behalf of our seniors. He has been checking for caregivers, family caregivers, for a long time. And he's taken all those experiences over to CHC, where he and his team are part of a movement to fight to protect Medicaid. Just a reminder to folks who are less familiar, 83 million of our fellow Americans are on Medicaid. They are impacted by Medicaid in terms of access to, health care, long-term care. 40% of our nation's kids receive their health care through Medicaid. Another 40% also receive the cost of birthing their kids covered by Medicaid, right? So this is no small little marginal program of the federal government. This is a big deal. And so $880 billion in cuts. That's what the U.S. House of Representatives, that's what they just passed. It's gone over to the Senate. This is real stuff. And so helping us to separate the fact from the fiction, Dr. Gene Accius, welcome back.
Thank you.
So before we went to the break, I mentioned that Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is seeking to reinstate Medicaid work requirements. Local publication is reporting that the governor has submitted a proposal to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to reinstate a work requirement for Medicaid expansion beneficiaries in the state. Under the proposal, recipients would need to be at least 55 years old, employed, enrolled in school or job training, in a recovery program, or have a physical or mental health illness. Dr. Gene, what say you about these Medicaid work requirements? What's wrong with them?
Yeah. So Dr. Nii-Quartelai, I think one of the things we have to take into account, you mentioned fact and data. Over 92% of all Medicaid participants are working. They're already working. 64% who are not, they're working part-time. So when you look at the Medicaid population, nearly 92, 94% of them are working. For those who are not working, they're working about part-time, right? So this idea of work requirements, it's really a mechanism to try to get people to disenroll from the Medicaid program.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Arkansas, for example, Arkansas implemented work requirements, and they did work requirements and reporting requirements. So not only did you have to submit to the work requirements, but you also had to go through some process of reporting that you were complying with the work requirements. Just that process of having to report, they lost 18,000 people from their roles.
And
Georgia is another example.
And so this whole idea, these proposals around, work requirements for Medicaid recipients, it's a smokescreen for what? Because if 92% in the example you just gave are already working, and for the folks who aren't a part of that 92% being part-time, then what's the intent of lawmakers and governors calling for these work requirements?
I think the ultimate intent here is to reduce enrollment in the Medicaid program through some of the requirements that are extremely complex and extremely confusing to actually comply with. So if you don't understand how to submit your requirements, if you don't understand the rules of engagement, you all of a sudden become non-compliant, and therefore you're off the rolls of Medicaid. Right? So I think that's that's one of the things that we have to be very mindful of. Politically, it sounds very appealing. Why wouldn't you want someone to be working? Well, they are working. They're working very low wage jobs. They are oftentimes working more than one job to try to make ends meet. When we talk about the Medicaid population, in terms of some of the individuals who are working, you're talking about your direct care worker, that person who actually goes in and works with the older adult in a nursing home, who's helping them with their eating and their bathing and their dressing and their Medicaid medications. You're talking about that care attendant who comes in to help that individual with a disability, whether at home or in an institution. That's what we're talking about here. Oftentimes, some of these individuals are not just on Medicaid, but because they make such low wages, they're also on SNAP, your Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So to answer your question more directly, I think that if our lawmakers are really interested in focusing on finding efficiencies, they should look at the Medicaid program as an engine of innovation. And the way that they actually do that is by ensuring that through Medicaid, individuals can not only just get their health care, but they can also address some of their social drivers of health, whether that is education, whether that is transportation, whether that is housing and food insecurity. We know that when you start to address some of these other elements of what makes someone healthy, everybody benefits. It is less costly to the Medicaid program. It is less costly to states. It is less costly to the broader economy. So I do think that we can actually take this as an opportunity to look across our states, whether you're in a rural area or an urban area, whether you're in a red state, a purple state, or a blue state, to say, how can we leverage Medicaid as an engine to scale for innovation and impact? How do we ensure that individuals are getting access to health care, that the population is becoming much healthier because we are addressing the social drivers of health? And how do we do that in a way that actually contains costs? Prevention is a very wise, sustainable strategy.
Dr. Jean, tomorrow is President Trump's joint address to Congress. Not a State of the Union, but joint address to Congress. What do you expect that he will say as it relates to the danger that the Medicaid program is faced with, especially given the actions of the House of Representatives just last week? What do you expect him to say? And what could he say to calm the fears that Medicaid is about to experience a cut that it's never seen before?
Well, I think that we've heard loud and clear from the Speaker of the House, and then also loud and clear from the President, that they have no intentions of cutting Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. We've heard that multiple times before. In the case of Medicaid, we know that over 83 million people are on Medicaid, which also includes some of Trump's biggest supporters, and that rural communities, mostly individuals who are Trump supporters, are likely to be disproportionately impacted should there be Medicaid cuts. So I do think that it's important that your viewers repeat back to these elected officials what they have said to the American public, that they have no intentions to cut this program. So let's hold them accountable for what they have said multiple times with regards to preserving the program. I think the other aspect of that too is in the particular case in Louisiana with the Speaker of the House, we have 1.5 million individuals who are on Medicaid. That's just individuals who are on Medicaid. That does not also include individuals who are supported by the Medicaid program because they're a provider. They work in a hospital. They work in a rural area. So tomorrow I expect to hear the president reiterate that he has no intentions of cutting the Medicaid program. And I think it is incumbent upon us as the American people to hold him accountable for his word or the lack of, both in terms of exactly now is the time for your viewers, every single person to be calling their representative to let them know how important the Medicaid program is to the fabric of our country, to the 40% of children who rely on the Medicaid program, to the women and families who are giving birth and have relied on Medicaid as the source of coverage, to the older adults who vote in record numbers, who rely on Medicaid for long-term care services. And if the President of the United States said that he has no intentions of cutting this program, well, we need to hold him accountable each and every way. And then we need to understand the math that they're looking at. If the Speaker of the House says that he has no intentions of cutting the Medicaid program, we need to hold him accountable. And we need to have a very transparent process in terms of doing that. So we need to keep the calls coming. We need to ensure that every single person understands that your health matters to your neighbor. Your health matters to your colleague, your neighbor, your coworker. Your health matters to individuals in other states because when you're healthy, Dr. Nii-Quartelai, we're all healthy. When I'm healthy, you're healthy. And that means that our population is more competitive, our businesses are more vibrant, we have an opportunity to live our most optimal, best lives and give back to our country, both in terms of the taxes that are being able to give back because people are able to work longer, they're healthier, and the whole 9 yards. And Medicaid is a huge core element of that makes this possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we let you go, Dr. Jean, give us a taste of what CHC is working on. I know you all are part of a coalition of folks that are on the front lines fighting to protect Medicaid. We know that there are a number of community health clinics, for example, that are part of this coalition. Darren Harris from St. John's Community Health has been on our show now multiple times, updating us on the fight that's being mounted by community health clinics. But talk to us about what CHC is doing and how our leaders, learners, and listeners can tap in.
Absolutely. So we're very fortunate as an organization to touch about 5,000 nonprofits across the country, all dedicated to addressing the barriers to health. We cannot address the barriers to health without ensuring that each person in every community has access to health care coverage. So whether it is our amazing partners like the American Cancer Association or American Diabetes Association or American Cancer Society or American Lung Association, American Heart Association, so many groups. The American Kidney Fund is a member of our network. We are on the front lines, really ensuring that we are elevating the lived experiences, the stories behind the numbers. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the number of people who will be impacted by these cuts. So I would encourage you and the viewers to visit us at chcimpact.org. Again, that is chcimpact.org. Join us, engage with us, partner with us. We are leveraging our 5,000 nonprofit partners. We are engaging with our partners, particularly in corporate America. And of course, we're centering the voices of our communities, which are so vitally important to preserving this program. So we want to hear from you. 1 in 5 Americans are covered by Medicaid. You know someone that's on Medicaid. This is personal. This is about family. This is about your community. This is about your coworkers who rely on this program as a lifeline. And the decisions that our elected officials make literally have life and death consequences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. You would think that we didn't learn the lessons from the pandemic. Imagine how we might have come out on the other side of that pandemic if Medicaid didn't exist, or if it was as limited as some are seeking to make it. Imagine that. There are public health implications for such severe cuts to programs like Medicaid. And so we thank you for helping to make it clear like water, Dr. Jean Accius over at CHC. And we hope to have you back again soon. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Fatherhood includes being present during pregnancy and beyond, supporting your partner, advocating for your baby, and ensuring a healthy birth. Black fathers play a key role in reducing maternal and infant health disparities, and your involvement starts during pregnancy. Join the free AIM Fatherhood Program today and learn how to support your partner, advocate for your baby's health, and connect with other fathers committed to healthier births. Visit blackinfantsandfamilies.org/fatherhood to get started.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Time for the quiet part out loud. And the quiet part is really all about remembering Angie Stone, the soul singer who broke ground in hip hop and neo soul, who died at the age of 63. I was an Angie Stone fan. I still am. I will always be an Angie Stone fan. In fact, after I learned about her passing, I hit the trail not far from where I live, and I just listened to Angie Stone's music. I just listened to album after album and some of my favorites, and even discovered that she did a cover album. I didn't know she had a cover album out there, but that was cool to listen to. But one of the great things about music is that we get to groove to it forever. We get to groove to the tunes forever. The music world and fans like me are saddened and are mourning the loss of Angie Stone, the Grammy-nominated R&B singer who died on Saturday morning in a car crash in Montgomery, Alabama. Stone's sultry voice resonated with multiple generations. When she first entered the music scene professionally, it was in the late 70s. I didn't know that. She entered in the late 70s as a member of the hip-hop trio, The Sequence. The group was one of the first all-female groups to release a rap single with Funk You Up in 1979. She's also remembered for her vocals as a part of the R&B group Ventricle Hold in the early 1990s. Angie Stone earned the following of a new generation of fans during the emergence of the neo-soul era of the late 1990s and early 2000s, with popular hits like No More Rain and Wish I Didn't Miss You. Neo-soul, for folks who aren't up on neo-soul, it's contemporary R&B and soul with other genres, including hip-hop and jazz. Angie Stone's popularity grew alongside other neo-soul artists like Erykah Badu, another one of my favorites, and Musiq Soulchild. Her two children expressed shock over her unexpected death in a joint statement Stone's publicist shared with sources just on Sunday. They said, never, quotes, never in a million years did we ever expect to get this horrible news? Our mom is and will always be our everything," said her daughter, Diamond Stone, and her son, Michael Archer, who Stone shared with singer-songwriter D'Angelo. "We are still trying to process and are completely heartbroken." Stone, a native of Columbia, South Carolina, began singing gospel music as a child in church. According to her bio, her father would also take her to see gospel artists perform. Growing up, she wrote poetry. She used her money saved from odd jobs to record demos at a local studio. And Angie Stone's successful solo career began after her time with The Sequence and Vertical Hold. The latter group reached the R&B Top 40 with "Seems You're Much Too Busy" in 1993. I could go on and on and on, but I think it's always a good day to remember the genius that we encounter. For anybody who's ever been to an Angie Stone concert, for anybody who's ever purchased an Angie Stone album, for anybody that just ever picked up what she was putting down, we want to groove out of this hour into our next hour. Listen to one of my favorite songs, "Brother." I remember when this came out. I remember seeing the music video to this song, and it was such an empowering anthem. And so I'm asking my sound engineer, Andy, to cue it up as we go to the top of the hour. The song "Brother" by Angie Stone will forever be an anthem that we can groove to among so many others. When we come forward, we are going to be in conversation with April Rain. We are offering you our full Oscar analysis. But first, we're going to groove into the next hour with a little Angie Stone. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
He is my king, he is my one. Yes, he's my father. Yes, he's my son. I can talk to him because he understands everything.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Pope Francis has taken another turn. In an afternoon update, the Vatican said the Pope suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure. He is receiving ventilation. Francis has been in the hospital due to bronchitis and pneumonia. There are about 3 million African Americans